What's up, everybody? Today on the podcast, we have Loretta Oberheim. She's an artist and the founder of LAGO She has a pretty unique story, starting art very young, only to have it derailed by a horrible car accident a few years back. So we get into how she's recovered from that and what sparked her new inspiration to start doing art again after not doing it for almost 6 years. She's recently sponsored by NewYorkArt.com, and you can see her stuff live at Tribeca's Contemporary Art Fair on September 5th. I had a great time speaking with her. We were able to take a look at some of her pieces on the podcast and discuss her methods and the way she does the things she does. As always, please, if you like the content, send us a like and subscribe. For anyone listening on the audio side of things, I highly suggest you check out our YouTube page to see some of Loretta's art. And for those of you looking for audio only, you can find us on Spotify, Google Podcast, and more. So thanks for watching, thanks for listening, and enjoy the podcast. We're in.
You got me here.
Yes, I did. I was excited. I'll tell you why. Because I did not know, and I've known you for a long time.
Yes.
I did not know all of that artistic background you had. I had no idea. I guess it maybe just never came up in conversation, or I never noticed in my obliviousness, right? So when I saw what you were doing, I was like, I want to ask you so many questions about it. So it's awesome. First of all, I'm a huge fan.
Thank you so much.
I'm a dummy when it comes to art.
Oh,
so
I am too. So don't even worry about it.
Well, to me, you're not.
Oh.
So where did this come from?
I've honestly been creating things since I was a kid. I've always loved painting and art and manipulating any type of material that's been in front of me. And my earliest memory is my father's best friend, Joe Papa, gave me, growing up, every year Christmas gifts that were art inspired. So one of my fondest memories is getting I had to be about 6 or 7 years old. He gave me like a fashion sketch, like a book kind of thing where it gave you like how to do outlines of like the female form, and then it taught you how to like draw clothing, which is how I got into like doing fashion pieces. And then another year it was this horrifically messy, which drove my parents crazy, one of those spinning wheels that you would like spin a wheel and like you put paper in it and then you would just drop paint into it and it would make almost like this like 60s psychedelic crazy looking painting
I remember
thing.
those.
Yeah.
And
He gave
you
me
would
that.
just spin it, and then you'd have all these geometric shapes and all this.
No, it was one where it was like almost like a spinning almost clay wheel in the middle.
Oh, and it would
It would
splatter.
just splatter all the paint everywhere, and it made a mess all over the place.
Nice.
My parents went to Ireland the day after my first birthday, and my poor grandparents had to watch me and my 2 older brothers, and my Nana took my 2 brothers to Sunday Mass, and my loving grandfather, my pops, got stuck watching me. And as a new father, you'll appreciate this story.
Sure.
I decided to turn my diaper into art.
Oh, no.
And I finger painted with my diaper and what was inside of it.
Oh, no.
All over the walls while I was in the crib. And supposedly my grandmother said she got back from church and you could just hear my grandfather just like coughing and gagging and like trying not to throw up. And he was like, Anna, look what she did. So my family always had this joke that they've always known I was very artistic due to my amazing finger painting abilities at a young age.
I mean, you could turn a diaper of shit into art.
I mean, someone, I think like a decade ago, did the whole entire exhibition at the MoMA where it was human feces.
Why?
Because it was art.
Yeah. See, this is where I have to draw lines in artistic creativity. Normally, I'm down for everything. Well,
Yeah.
But when you're painting with shit.
Yeah, well, at least I was just one, but I was groundbreaking. I was 1985 and I was being groundbreaking in a...
That's true. At 1 year old, that is impressive. Yeah.
Yeah. So
it started there.
So it really started there.
Really shitty beginning.
Shitty beginning, but it turned into something really fun. and great. I did go to the Fashion Institute of Technology, which not a lot of people, I think, really think of art. They think of like Pratt or RISD or Savannah College of Art and Design. They don't think of FIT. I did go for textile and surface design. So I do have a design background. I was formerly trained in watercolor and gouache painting because when I was in college, we still painted patterns. We weren't using the computer yet.
Right.
So, so for me, I've always been painting and being artistic. But I think that, especially since you and I have become friends, we never always don't really talk about work and what we do. Because I don't think when everyone once gets together, like we want to talk about that.
Right.
And I've really focused the last 7 or 8 years on the business end of my industry. And I really don't work as much in day-to-day design as I did when I started.
Right.
So I think that was really why everyone tends to forget really that I have any form of artistic ability or hand. And you know, as you know, I was in my car accident almost 6 years ago. And that was really hard because from the brain injury I sustained, I was unable to kind of communicate my brain to my hand anymore, like what I wanted to actually create and draw.
Right.
So that caused a lot of kind of issues with creating anything at that point. So,
yeah. And at that point, you're focusing on work anyway. So that's replacing that space in your brain right after that. So it just kind of gets put on a back burner. And
it does.
You can't really even do anything about it.
You can't.
However, 6 years later,
finally,
you know, you're pulling out some stuff.
I am. Finally, yeah. Yeah, it took a lot. I think this past December, I finally hit a wall. I'd gone through a lot of stuff at the end of last year, whether it, you know, with people, health, and just life, that I finally just bought a 48 by 36 inch canvas and put doctor's notes, the accident report, sonograms, all these things on, you know, letters from people who I'm no longer friends with. And I just kind of put that all on the base of the canvas and just, for lack of a better word, vomited everything I felt onto it, which became a painting that I call 1104, which is when it was the time of my car accident.
Right.
And I feel like everything from that point on that I've created has been an extension of that. Like I had to get that one painting out, which I did in oils, which for me, I never painted in oils before in my life. And that was the first time I've ever painted in oils. And it came out awesome. I was so excited because it's one of the hardest mediums to paint in. And I was so happy with how it came out. And it took me about a week of just locking myself away in my office upstairs in my house, which has now become, as Kenny could tell you, a
massive art studio.
A massive art studio / mess. I did have really clean carpets at one point. Now, like, there's paint all over the carpets. There's paint on the ceiling. And Ken's like, how did you get that orange paint up there? I was like, oh, I don't even remember the last time I painted with that color. My bad. So, but everything I've created since that point has just been a true extension of that first piece. And, you know, I've gone into like painting and just resin art, and even lately this really cool like 3D sculptural art on from Yupo paper, where I'm literally just burning Yupo paper and molding it and turning it into something.
I was going to ask you about that. That's the Purple Heart. Right?
Yeah.
Yep. And that I was like, how are you, like, do you have a 3D printer? I'm like, what are you doing with this? Like, how did you do this? So I'm very curious about that.
Yeah, there's this type of paper. It's called Yupo paper. It's a synthetic. It's plastic. So when I do this with just like a soldering iron, I wear my Bane mask, as I call it, to not be breathing in all the toxins. But if I do use a butane torch, I don't, because I have to kind of blow out quickly anything that goes on fire, which, sorry, Kenny, I'm not wearing my Bane mask. I'm sucking in more toxins. So when you do that, at first I paint on this Yupo paper with alcohol ink. Cheers. which is not at all made from actual alcohol. But when you have to move it around, what you have to use is rubbing alcohol to actually move the ink around the paper.
Okay.
So I'm using a high concentration of rubbing alcohol and a airbrush, but with no paint in the airbrush. I'm just using it for the air to move the color around and kind of mix it the way that I want. And then when that fully dries, I either use a soldering iron, which I only thought in my life I would ever use in technology class.
Right.
But I'm using it to either burn holes into the Yupo paper or I use the butane, hand butane torch. Yeah. And I take that and I just kind of start molding the Yupo paper into what I want it to do.
And it just stays where it is.
It stays that way. And then when I start putting layers on top of each other, I just use like a glue gun to kind of keep it where I want it specifically.
Okay.
Yeah, because when you start using the torch to try to lighten things up, it can really start deforming it too much. So you can just use like pieces of glue to kind of like a hot glue gun to keep things where you want it. So yeah.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
That's pretty interesting.
You know,
I think about all the tools you're using to do that. Like I would have. Like, where did you discover that?
I just started really, like I saw someone with something with the holes in it, and I was like, oh, that must be like a soldering iron. But the butane idea, I just started playing around one day. Like I painted something on Yupo, and I did not like it. And I have the butane torch for the resin art pieces I do, because to get the bubbles out of the resin, you need a hand torch to get the bubbles out. So I just started burning stuff. I got really frustrated, and I'm sure my husband's really not going to be excited to know, like, one day the brain injury person just felt like burning shit in the house. Okay. And I started realizing it made these really cool, like, the one that I have, which I call like the Ice Queen's Heart, it has these really cool, it almost looks like these weird, creepy, like predator mouths that start forming out of it. It looks really weird, but it looks like the ventricle valves of a heart. And I noticed that started happening, and I was like, oh, like I made those layers for that piece maybe like a month and a half ago, but I didn't really put it together until like 2 weeks ago, because I was just sitting there and looking at it, and I was like, what can I do with this? And I had so many pieces that were like that, like all these pieces of Yupo paper that I had burned and I had molded, and I was like, what can I do with you? I don't know what to do with you. What if I just start playing? And then I couldn't figure out like how to keep it together. Like I tried rubber cement, and that wasn't working well. And then I just read somewhere that like someone who did something that looked kind of like some of the soldering iron pieces I'd seen, but they're very flat. They're not as dimensional. They're like, oh, we used like 3D like molding pieces and hot glue. And I was like, hot glue?
Yeah.
Well, that's it. That's what you need, is the hot glue. And that is what'll keep it. And that's what I realized, that's what I needed to kind of just keep everything in place. So a lot of the pieces, like I'll fold it into place to kind of like mold it all in together, and then just use little dots of hot glue here and there just to keep it more like structural and secure.
Right.
So I try to make them so you don't need the hot glue, but just in case, they got them.
It keeps it together.
Yep.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
So you mentioned that 1104 piece.
Yes.
I love that piece.
Thank you.
I think I have it somewhere.
That piece is Oh, there he is.
There he is.
I don't know if I have him up on that.
It drives me crazy because I keep looking for it because I want to look at it, and it's not up anywhere.
It's not there.
It flashes by.
It does flash up because it's something that I don't have on there for selling purposes.
Right.
Because I don't want anyone to ever ask me to buy it, because it's not getting off my wall.
Right.
It's not going anywhere. So that for me is one reason why it's so hard to find. I think if you scroll down on here, you'll find it in the photos.
Yeah, maybe it's down.
That's the one thing about 1104. It's never going to leave me. And that's why I don't have it even up on places for people to try to ask. Because I had gotten a few people emailing me about it, and I was like, I can't. And it's just one of those things. It's never going to go.
Mm-hmm. It's yours.
It mine.
You've been on a tear.
I've been on a tear.
This is clever.
True. Why, thanks. There it is.
When I first saw this, I was literally blown away. I was like, I didn't know she had it in her. And it was just buried deep, but you got it out, and it's super, super impressive.
Thank you.
So when you tell me that you're, with the sculptures and stuff, that you sat on them for a month, you didn't know what to do with I relate to that because I have a hard drive full of riffs that I just have nothing to do with. They're basically a junk drawer. But with this is different. I feel when I look at this, it was lurking. It was always there.
Yep.
And it was lurking. It was just waiting to come out. And it just took some time. We always make jokes about like the car accident and brain injuries and stuff like that, but like not just to make light of it, but
well, that's how I and others survive it.
Yeah.
Is humor. It's humor.
I hear it. But realistically, like look what you did. Like fuck the brain injury. Like look what you did. You know what I'm saying? Like and all this stuff you're doing, you've passed it. In my opinion, you've passed it. You know, and it's all different.
Yeah.
You know, you don't have like one single style. Like that's what you do. Everything you have on here, for the most part, is pretty different. You know, I like this green and purple. That's what's up.
It's kind of your color theme.
Yeah.
You can scroll down. There's more of them. You just have to hit load more.
Oh, a little more.
Yeah, dude, seriously.
That's what I mean.
So I know.
When did this start?
Like December, January, around there.
So it hasn't even been a year.
Even since I've been back into doing it.
You have more than 2 a month, easily.
Oh, yeah.
So you just crank them out. You're just cranking them out.
Because it's just like, that's what, because you said like you don't have one specific style. And there's a reason for that. Everyone like wants to have, every artist is supposed to have some type of label, and it drives me crazy because like I get asked like, well, what is your art? Like, what do you think? Like, and I'm like, it's mine. And it's like, well, what do you label it as? And you're supposed to go into these, you know, different art sites and different things to show your art and like have conversations with other artists and stuff. And I'm sitting there and I'm like, okay, well, it's obviously abstract. I got that.
Sure.
I got that part.
There's no subject matter.
Yeah, but there is.
Well, in some of them.
It's my whole subject matter is that's exactly how I'm feeling in that exact moment.
Right. Just in color form.
It's in color form. And for me, one thing with having my injury is that words are extremely difficult to find at times. And that's why I found this quote, and it's on the top of my page where it says like art, it's something about like art speaks where words are unable to explain. And it's just part of having the two areas of my brain that were injured permanently. And for me, it's like whenever I'm feeling a certain way, that's exactly how I'm feeling in that certain way. So there is never just a day where I feel like using a paintbrush, or I like using just the airbrush, or I just pour paint on a canvas and see how it goes, or I'm just using alcohol ink, or I'm just using oils, or I'm just using, it really just depends on how I'm feeling. I mean, that was made as an inspiration to my adorable little niece. Her name is Poppy. And it's just that lightness and happiness that she has when she jumps around and acts like a crazy 3-year-old. I think it's so crazy how like everything and every artist has to have a label. And I think you feel that way too. Like anyone who writes music, writes poetry or screenplays or creates some form of art, really it's just to get who you are and like what's up here out. Whether you see it or you hear it or you just want to get it out. And it just drives me like nuts sometimes where it's like you have to have like this laundry list of labels to go along with it. I always find that interesting with Instagram when you have to like label your art, like hashtag it. I sit there and I'm like, hashtag, I didn't fuck this one up. Hashtag, I think I wrote this right. like it's tough, but I'm enjoying it. So
yeah, it's fantastic.
Thank you. Like, look, I made a website. I feel like an adult. Like I'm adulting.
No, and trust me, I've seen professional websites that look way worse. That are worse to navigate. Well, that's just me being particular about websites, honestly.
I get it.
So when you were in school, though, let's go back to that for a second. So when you were in school, were you doing anything like this, or is this like kind of like a new chapter in your artistic
That's
like,
more
journey?
of a newer chapter, because when I was in school, it was very focused on a specific type of, I don't want to say fashion.
A genre, maybe?
Yeah, that's probably a better say. It's a very, my major was extremely specific because it was textile and surface design. And I think there's only four three or four colleges, universities in the United States that offer that as a major.
Wow. Okay.
So what I was doing is pretty much just designing fabric patterns. That's what my major was. And you learn pretty much, like, I took fine art classes, like, just to keep your hand, you know, trained, because you're still sitting there drawing all day. But I took a lot of, like, the fine art classes you would take would be, like, nude drawing. You'd be taking, like, 1 or 2 painting classes, but they weren't like this. They were just really just, like, fundamental, baseline fine art classes. The majority of the work that I did had a lot of working on just repeats, whether it was for fashion, like clothing fashion, or for home textiles. So the type of classes that I had were very specific towards which area you went into. If you went into prints or if you went into weaving, like, I know weave structures, like, it's nobody's business. I used to weave on large looms. I can set up a whole loom.
Really?
Yeah. Remember
Wow.
Buckle's wedding when we were at Bethpage? I walked into, like, the Bethpage area and I was like, I could totally set up that loom. I know how to use a floor loom. I can, like, totally throw everything through the shuttle and, like, do all that fun stuff. Like,
That's how I feel about a tape machine.
but that's it. Yeah.
Because
Exactly.
that's how when I learned
But
audio,
that's how
I
you
learned
do
on
it.
a tape machine.
That's like, you know how to do that. Like, I know how to, like, design prints. I work for my whole career has been in the high-end carpet industry. I've designed high-end carpet for residential, hospitality, commercial interiors. I've now moved on to doing business development for high-end carpet for all of those areas. So my specific background has always been in surface design, not really in the fine arts. So I think for me, that's why there's been this kind of almost like surprise of how well received all of this is. Because I never had really a true fine art background training. Like, my training was in things that were very specific for what my major was, which was not like illustration or fine arts, still life arts, or anything like that.
Okay.
So I think for me, that's what's kind of like, I'm kind of really, like, taken back when people are like, holy shit, I'm really impressed by your stuff. I'm like, who?
Oh, me.
What?
Little me.
What?
Oh.
Huh? Moi? No. I feel like Miss Piggy. Like, moi? Like, I don't really expect it. Like, it's just something that's just very, very well welcomed and very appreciated, because it's just something that I'm just still in shock about. So, yeah.
Sweet. So I saw recently that you got featured. Was that what it was in NewYorkArt.com? So they're featuring
They're
your
representing me.
stuff? Okay.
Yeah.
That's pretty badass.
That's pretty badass. I have a meeting with the art director this upcoming week to possibly have some of my stuff in the physical studio gallery, which is down on Franklin in Manhattan. Which is another thing I'm just so interested in, is how much the gallery scene has changed since when I was in college versus now. So much of it is online, as almost like your step in, and if things go well online, then you go actually into the gallery.
Right.
So it's just learning, like, a whole new process than what I thought it was going to end up being. And I'm like, I'm not that old. Hold on. When did everything change? So yeah, I'm really excited about that opportunity. Once again, just doing this really again since December, and that conversation, the offer came actually at Puma's wedding. I got the email during Puma's wedding.
Oh, very cool.
Yeah. So
you were in high spirits as is.
yeah, we were having a great time as is together as a group. And then I got that email telling me that, you know, the works that I had submitted had been accepted by the art director.
Wow.
Yeah. So, and then it was just finally published this past week. So, yeah, I mean, it's really exciting. It's extremely humbling, and I'm very, very grateful for the opportunities, because I didn't even know this was even an option. But it's just kind of, as I kind of always say to everybody, it's kind of, you just have to take the chance and see where it ends up. It could be a dead end. It could be someone being a complete jerk, or it could actually turn out to be something. But you have to at least take the chance to see if it's worth doing.
Right.
Because if you just sit there all day and you don't try it, you'll never know. You'll never know. So.
Exactly. That's kind of what this whole thing's been about. So the people I've been bringing on have been people that got to a point in their lives where they were like, I got to take a chance on something that I really want to do. Sometimes it succeeds, sometimes it doesn't.
Yeah.
But if you really want it to happen, it'll happen.
Yeah.
You know?
I mean, personally, for me, this whole experience has just been it just started really as just therapy. And it's just, I was so shocked when people were responding so positively from it. Of course, you expect your friends to be like, yeah, that looks great. Good job. Good job. You made something, sweetie.
Right, of course.
Yay. Because we were all loving and supportive of each other like that. But then when you see your friends, you're like, oh, really? Like, holy shit. Like, I want to pay you for that to go into my house. I was like, wait, no, I'll just give it to you. Mm-hmm. No. I'm going to pay you. Mm-hmm. I was like, oh, okay.
Okay.
Are you sure?
All right.
I mean,
all right.
That's kind of nice. I was just painting. But so it's nice when obviously you do something you love and it's appreciated. I joke around with Kenny. I was like, I got my best friend back. That my best friend finally came back to me. And I'll go upstairs and I'll paint. He was like, where are you going? I'm like, I'm going to go visit my best friend. Mm-hmm. I got that back. The last 6 years have been some of the hardest. And I thought I had been through some shit. Mm-hmm. None of that compared to the last 6 years. And if I could get through the last 6 years, anyone can get through anything. And I think that's what I really want people to know. Yeah, life's not meant to be easy. It's going to suck. But look what beautiful things can come out of something that sucked. Mm-hmm. And I think that's what I want. Like, I always say to everyone, like, this too shall pass. Like, I have it tattooed on me. We talk about it all the time. I was told that by my grandfather, who foresaw me being an artist at the age of 1. My dad tells me it all the time. It, like, actually became, like, a reality to me in the last 8 months. And I was just like, it really finally passed. And I'm here. We're all here. And all I want to do is just share this with anyone who's willing to look at it. And I think that's what any creative person and any creative outlet really, truly wants at the end of the day, is just to share it all.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
Yeah.
I agree with that 100%. You said earlier how, we've been friends for a while, and we got a big group of friends that we all hang out. And, no one ever talks about work. And that was where, we're all kind of Chandler in that aspect. Yeah. You know what I mean?
It's true. Yeah.
Right? What does Chandler do for a living?
Yeah. I don't know.
He's a transponder.
Yeah.
90s kids. 1994.
94. Bringing it back.
But like you said before, if your friends and family are going to support you and say the things that they're supposed to say. Mm-hmm. But realistically, you want it to go out to strangers. Right? You want it to go out to the rest of the world. Like, same thing with music. Like, we always have shows and we'd bring people, like, we'd have to bring all of our friends and family. That wasn't helping us. You know what I mean? That wasn't doing anything for us, really.
No, it was
nice. It's nice for the support, sure, but that's not getting our music to other people that haven't heard it before. But once you get it out there, now you are, now it's where it'll affect such a wider range of people.
Exactly.
And has the possibilities. You don't know what's going to happen. You don't know when your phone's going to ring and someone's going to want something or whatever.
But that's it. It's like what you were saying with your shows. Like, it's like, okay, it was great. My friends, my family were there. I met the minimum.
Right.
That's awesome. Like, I met the minimum, so the guys didn't charge me to play tonight.
Right.
And I love my friends and family for coming out. But I really hope someone bought our demo or bought a T-shirt, or someone took something home tonight, or they're going to listen to me on, like, whatever audio cloud thing is now used. Because
or it was just
for me, it was MySpace when I used to be in the band scene, so I have no idea what's used now.
But you just want someone to be affected by your art, right? You just want someone to have a reaction to it, whether they like it or not. Mm-hmm. So that's why, like you said, like the friends and family thing, sometimes that's a little skewed because you're not going to get the exact opinion you might deserve, honestly.
Exactly. You want that honest feedback back, because constructive criticism is the only way any person of any art form can actually grow as an artist. And that was one great thing I learned at FIT. I had a professor, God rest her soul. I called her the color Nazi to her face. She was my color theory class Professor Grill. Mm-hmm. I did not know at the time that she was Jewish.
And you called her the color
I
Nazi.
called her the color Nazi.
Oh my God.
At the end of the semester, I became her Italian bubola, and she made me a cheesecake, and it was one of the most amazing things I ever ate in my life. And she, in front of the entire class, like ripped up this whole color theory project I had worked on, and it was really tough because everything then was hand painted.
Mm-hmm.
Like a tube of gouache this big is, $10, and your paintbrushes are anywhere from $30 to $60 because it's sable hair handmade brushes that they make you buy. And she would throw you out of the class if you didn't have the right type of muffin tins from this one Chinese store down on freaking Canal Street. I got threw out of class. She threw me out of class. Yeah. It was, I'll never forgot like how angry I was because she was like, your gouache is streaking. You didn't get all the gum arabic out. This is trash. And she ripped it out. She's like, you're better than that. Get out of my class. I never forgot how mad I was. But she was right. Mm-hmm. I was better than that. And I had her for a few other classes throughout my tenure at FIT. And she really did make a great impact after I called her the color Nazi. But it was true. And she really expected perfection. And that is something that I think a lot of creative people who are really driven understand and appreciate.
Right.
You expect perfection and you look for that constructive criticism. Not someone on Twitter being like, you blow ball sacks, fuck you, fuck off, what the fuck do you think you're doing? Go suck your mom's dick or something like that. Like, that's just stupid.
Right.
But it's someone who's like, hey, maybe there was a little feedback in there. Why don't you try this tool, that tool, or something like that? That is amazing. Mm-hmm. Or someone who sees what I'm working on and they're like, composition's crazy. Great. That's crazy. That's amazing. How did you do that? Have you ever tried this tool instead of that tool or something? That is what like is desperately needed in the creative community. Not just someone with like their nose in the air being like, ugh, I would never watch that. I would never buy that. Mm-hmm. I would never do that. Like,
yeah, something that can help your technique, where it's not, obviously art is subjective, right? Mm-hmm. But instead of saying that's not perfect, as in it doesn't look perfect, it's how you did it. Like, I know what you were going for, but your technique was off. Yeah. And you could have done this better had you spent more time on this or had you used this different tool.
Yeah. So I think like constructive criticism is so desperately important and appreciated. But I think that people need to understand what that means and not necessarily what I think a generation has lost. I feel like we've become like the world of people behind a keyboard who don't understand what that means. But
all right, so it's been 8 months since you started this whole journey, right? So you have, and now actually let me clear something up. Is it LAGO, LAGO, LAGO?
Oh,
which would be a J, but
unless you were in Europe,
I guess. How are we pronouncing it? This is just from me.
For you, I say LAGO.
Okay. That's what I was saying.
LAGO.
LAGO.
Yes.
Okay. So LAGO Artistry.
Yes.
So this is obviously your platform.
Yes, that's the platform.
What's the next step? So right now you're getting into galleries, you're starting to push the online, more. Mm-hmm. Where do you want to go with this?
I was actually thinking of possibly doing teaching with it, of setting up workshops. I've had so many people reach out to me and ask me how I do some of the things I do. And I think it would be, I love teaching. Mm-hmm. I love explaining people how I kind of come up with the things I do or how things come out the way they are. Not like, a paint night or something like that, but just to kind of do that type of idea where, having a group of people sit together and just have them create. And I thought that would be maybe an interesting avenue because I've always just enjoyed sharing my knowledge with others. So that to me was just something that I've been thinking of as of recently.
Mm-hmm. If you're teaching this, so then are you going to be teaching your style? Well, I guess, not really your style, but like the way you've painted so far? Are you going to be teaching like basic,
No, I think like kind of the techniques I have.
Just what you do.
Yeah,
Okay.
because I think that's what kind of people are interested in.
Okay.
I feel like anyone could go anywhere and get a watercolor class or get any other type of
Right.
class.
Right.
I
Like
think
the fundamental classes are out there.
yeah, that's all out there. I think it would really be for people who are, interested in trying, like alcohol inks or something like that. And there's really nothing on it unless you try to YouTube a bunch of videos and play around on your own. I think kind of maybe sitting and doing a workshop and having people and speaking with them about it. The only place I've actually seen workshops like that are in like Australia, and there's people who work out of Australia that do amazing things. I mean, the artistic group that they have and camaraderie and like community there is phenomenal. And it's just like, why can't we have like, I know we're not Australia, but why can't Long Island have something almost like that? Like how our music scene was like 10, 15 years ago. Like, why can't we have more of a cohesive artistic community? I mean, maybe we do, and I've just been out of it for so long.
Right.
I don't know because I've just been out of it.
Right.
And I'm trying to find my way back into it. And I just think that would be kind of nice just to sit with other people who, maybe are a little bit more further along and just have questions and just want to learn from each other and kind of set up workshops like that to just learn and feed off of each other. So,
Oh, that's a great idea.
so that was just a thought.
Yeah, no, that's great.
So besides just what I'm kind of doing now, I mean, from just the initial painting and just the gallery work, I would love to maybe set up just something like that, just to teach people and to see where it goes. Because no matter what, everyone's going to have their own hand.
Right.
No one's going to be able to do exactly what I can do.
Right.
And I can't do what other people do.
Right.
Just like people who can make music. Someone has a different ear than anybody else. No one can do exactly what you make up. No one can never be the next Prince or the next Michael Jackson or the next, Clive Davis. No one can because no one has that ear. So why worry about sharing your knowledge? Because
It's yours.
It's mine.
Right.
So why hold it to yourself like Gollum in the Ring when you can share it with everybody and know that a part of you will always be in someone else's work, something you taught. So to me, that's just more important.
It's a great way of looking at it.
It's
No,
true.
it really is.
It's
It really
really
is.
true.
No, it absolutely is true.
So
So going by, in 8 months, if we're talking the next 8 years, right? Like, how do you keep this kind of consistently going, or do you even do that, or do you just kind of ride it out a little bit and then come back to it? Like, have you thought about that at all?
for me, since everything I do is pretty much emotionally driven,
There's no end to it.
it really, no, there might not be. Honestly, it's an open-ended book. There's no plan to wrap it up, but there's no plan to say that it has to go on for all time. This is currently the stage that I'm in. This is currently what I'm creating. And I see it even more going more into this 3D sculpturing work and what I can kind of come up with that and what pieces of that can be created and maybe in larger aspects, but like who knows? Like who knows how far it could go? I mean, they came out so much fun.
They look awesome. They really do.
I mean, I would have never have imagined I could have gotten something like that.
What's the size of this?
It's a 9x9 frame, so that piece is probably about maybe a 5x7. So it's like, okay, what's the next thing to do? Instead of using a 9x12 piece of Yupo, I can buy a whole roll of Yupo. Instead of buying the sheets, I can buy rolls. How big can I get this badass?
Right. How big could you get it? And that's solid, right?
It's solid.
Yeah, that's cool.
So it's that's going to be my evolving challenge is how big can I get that sucker? And make sure that it's still sturdy enough to fit, and how large can I get them? Because most of these sculptures are about that size. They're not very large.
Right.
So my challenges over time will be, how do I get you larger?
Right. They're desktop right now.
Yeah, they're small. Like this is like an 8x8 frame. So he's like probably about that big, that guy.
So you have painting, you have sculptures, right?
Yeah.
Anything else on the horizon as far as other styles or genres?
Well, I play with the resin art, which is up there, which is just fun because like they can be either like used for housewares or people just use them as just singular pieces on their own. So it really just depends on how people want to use them. But those things are like pucks. Those things are brutal.
Yeah.
Those things are sturdy as all heck. But they're so much fun. I mean, the type of color you get in the translucency, it's so much fun.
It is pretty awesome. There it is.
Yeah, those are my 3 current mediums of sorts. My main idea is just not to light the house on fire. That's my main goal.
It's a good goal to have. So it'll be up on here, you said, in like a week?
Oh, they're already up.
Oh, I couldn't find them.
What? Okay. So put in Loretta Oberheim.
Is that why? I just searched for...
Oh, Lorett. I don't know. See how many Lorettas. I'm the only Loretta. So there was a time where I could not come up with names for my art.
Okay.
I couldn't. And what I would start doing was I would listen to certain songs on repeat. So I started naming the artwork after the songs I was listening to on repeat.
Okay.
So Spirit is not one of them. This just reminded me of being a kid again and just being like free falling, like just free going crazy with paint and having a good time. Because like that color, like lilac-y pink, I had in my bedroom as a color from like, I don't know, my sister picked it out. Mm-hmm. So I was definitely like the ages of 9 to 15. And I just loved how teal and hot pink looked with it. So
oh, that's cool. I like the coffee stains.
that is, if you notice, they come in series of 5 or 3. I'm one of 5 kids, and I'm the 3rd kid. Mm-hmm. So there's a lot of 1 and 3s. And then What Can I Say is a song from Brandy Carlisle.
Okay.
And I kept listening to it and listening to it and listening to it. And it just started clicking with me. And I just started going nuts with it. And at the end of it, I decided to put some of the lyrics actually into the painting. So you have Time ticking on me. Alone is the last place I wanted to be, which is lyrics from her song. But what's cool on this is you actually have copper and sterling silver flakes.
That's what this is up here?
Yep.
All that.
On the painting.
So it glistens?
Glistens. That's a little zhuzh. A little zhuzh for the ladies in Great Neck. Just a little something.
That's great.
Thank you. And then Whatever You Do. That was the last one.
And look what it's being compared to, though.
Well, that's what's the crazy part to me is like, I couldn't like grasp putting my art up for that amount of money.
Look what's next to it.
I understand what's next to it.
What are you talking about? Like, and like the only reason why this is more is probably just because people know who those people are.
No, it's because you could put it at whatever you wanted to put it at. I could have put my stuff for $2,000.
Well, fucking you should. I mean, the 3 things that pop up are...
I want it to...
What do you compare it to?
I want it to sell. I want someone to enjoy it.
That's a detractor. You're wrong about that.
No.
That should be at least $1,500.
No.
I'll tell you, it's because it's a detractor by comparison. If you're at a store, right, and you're buying a dress, and you would look at the 4 dresses that you really wanted to buy.
Okay.
And these were their prices, and then there was that one. You'd be like, why is that one that price? What's wrong with that one?
No, I would not.
Is that clearance? Is that
no?
Is that a return?
It would say clearance on it.
Well,
Thank you.
I would say
nope.
It's contenders with all of these, and if that's what those are going for, this is your market price.
No.
For sure.
No.
For sure.
I was looking at other ones on the site. I couldn't do it.
It doesn't matter.
All right.
What matters is you also may like. So when someone looks at this, they're going to see these, and they're going to see it's in the same ballpark.
Well, that's where I made my mistake.
Telling you.
See, I should have talked
You're
to you.
leaving money on the table.
I did leave money on the table my
Talking
first
to the
round.
hustler here.
I know. I left money on the table my first round.
I mean,
See, I don't understand how I compare with Spring River Night.
That does seem... it is different. You know, because obviously this has identifiable objects in it.
Yes.
I think it's more just like the color and the strokes, really.
Yeah,
just what it looks like.
Yeah, I don't know.
Are you going to be able to sell these in bulk? Like, are you going to be able to duplicate them and sell them out? Or is it just like the piece?
It's just the piece. I don't want to do bulk.
You don't want to replicate?
I don't know if I want to do digital prints. That's a lot of work that I'm just not set up for yet.
Gotcha.
In my life.
Why is that a lot of work?
like, I got the right printer and I got to print all this stuff out, and
No,
I
you
can
don't.
barely walk away.
You know, you just got to go to a distributing company, let them do all that shit, and you just send them the art.
See, that's why I need you.
So to put that in perspective for the band stuff,
Mm-hmm.
there's a website. It's called CD Baby. So what you do with CD Baby is you buy a package, whatever
Mm-hmm.
it is, you upload your songs, and then that's it. And then they give you. We got like 1,000 CDs. We got iTunes Play, Spotify Play, like all the stuff that basically everywhere you would want it. They take care of it.
Oh.
And you just here you go. Here's whatever it was like $89.99. It was whatever the package was. There's our songs. We upload it. We put our artwork on it.
Yeah.
All that stuff. They take care of everything.
See, there's something with like Deviant Art where I've done something similar to that. I just have to get like more of like understanding of it.
Yeah.
You have to look at my frequently asked questions when you have a moment.
Yes, I will. Frequent inquiries. This is your first one?
This is my first one.
If one train leaves New York City at 10 a.m. and is expected to arrive in L.A. at 6 p.m., 4 days from now, who is watching the dogs? That's a frequently asked question.
Yeah. In my head, it is.
It's great.
That's all I care about. That's all. I always like laugh at frequently asked questions because like they're always so serious and so like blah, blah,
So
blah, blah,
frequent.
blah. So frequent, those questions like that people ask.
So what is your return policy?
If you contact
There
me
is
then.
none. Don't fucking buy it if you're going to return it. Again, I should be taking care of most of the marketing for you.
You should be. I don't know why I even bothered to even write a return policy.
We do not accept cancellations, of course. If you don't want it, don't buy it.
Well, that's of custom pieces, yeah.
You should mention that,
I
of course.
do.
What techniques?
Techniques.
Okay.
A little bit everything.
So I should have just went down this frequently asked question for this.
But it wouldn't be as much fun.
No, not at all.
I mean, you would not have asked me if a train leaves in New York City at 10 a.m.
I might have.
Who's watching the puppies? Nobody.
Well, Loretta, I just want to say that I am thoroughly impressed. I don't have money to buy any of this, but I would if I could.
Don't worry.
And I think you're really good.
I'm working on something for you and Miss Dana, so don't worry about
Get
it.
out of here.
No, don't worry about it.
Oh, a little custom piece.
A little custom. A
Oh
little
my
something,
God.
something.
I'm excited.
A little something.
Yeah, don't ever stop.
I
Seriously.
don't want
Seriously, don't ever stop. There's no reason to.
No.
This is great.
Thanks. I'm really excited. I really am. I've missed it so much.
Yeah.
So much. It
Yeah.
makes me so happy to be back into it. So
And you know what? It makes me happy to see you happy.
thanks, Joe.
Thanks for coming by.
Of course. No, thank you so much for having me. It's been a blast. My dear.